Can I recording?
Yeah. I think it has start record, right?
Mm, yeah,
All right. Yeah. Good morning, Eric.
yeah. Morning, Mr. K.
Okay, so today is our reading session,
Mm,
right?
m- mushrooms. Mushrooms are fungi that grow in bacteria-rich soil and like cheese. They possess their own microbiome. They contain bioactive like beta-glucans that are anti-angiogenic and activate the immune system. Mushrooms are also excellent sources of dietary fiber, which act as a prebiotic.
Mushrooms increase the diversity of our microbiome, a sign of a strong microbiome health defense. Scientists from Penn State University studied this effect by feeding healthy mice chow made with a small amount of white button mushroom, 1% by weight, or just normal mouse chow for 6 weeks. In the mushroom chow group, each mouse ate the equivalent of only 1/500th of an average size white button mushroom each day. Researchers collected and analyzed blood, urine, and fecal samples throughout the experiment.
Urine tests show that mice eating white mushrooms had a sevenfold increase in levels of an acid called hippurate, an indicator of microbiome diversity and health. Mushrooms consumption also brought increased protective gut bacterial bacteroides and the bacterial phylums Microbiomes, which includes the desirable Akkermansia, while decreasing harmful species from the Firmicutes phylums. At the end of 6 weeks, researchers challenged the mice by exposing them to harmful bacterial Citrobacterus pudendus that infect the gut. The scientists found that mice who ate white button mushrooms had less gut inflammation and less damage from the infection, demonstrating the gut protective effect of eating mushrooms.
Scientists at the South China Institute of Technology and the Triali Women's Nutrition and Health Institute in China studied the effects of shiitake mushrooms on the aging microbiome by feeding adult and elderly mice shiitake extracts for 4 weeks. Aging mice have lower levels of Firmicutes and Bacteroides, but shiitake consumption increased amounts of these bacteria in aging mice by 115%. In humans, an interesting study of centenarians, or so-called superagers, show these some show these same patterns of gut microbiota. In both mice and people, shiitake mushrooms may be able to reverse the changes to the microbiome that typically accompany old age.
The lion's mane mushrooms, renowned for its culinary and med- medicinal properties, was the subject of a study by scientists at in Jiangnan University in China to test its effect on the microbiome. In a lab, they fed mice with severe gut inflammation that human equivalents of 1 tablespoon of lion's mane mushrooms. The results show that lion's mane could decrease the symptoms and the proteins associated with gut inflammation by as much as 40%. The mushroom increased the healthy bacterial Echinacea while decreasing the harmful sulfur toxins producing disulfurable.
Beverages, fruit juices, pomegranate, cranberry, and Concord grape. Drinking certain fruit juices has a positive impact on the levels of Akkermansia municipula, which is associated with decreased gut inflammation and the ability to combat obesity, as well as anti-tumor responses to some types of cancer immunotherapy.
The microbiome benefits of drinking pomegranate juice are linked to its bioactive. The allergitannins, as we saw in chapter 3, pomegranate is abundant in allergitannins. This can be metabolized by Akkermansia into a metabolite called urolithin A, which is excreted in the urines. Studies suggest that about 70% of people can metabolize allergitannins in this way. Researchers at the University of California, Los Angeles studied 20 healthy volunteers and rely on urine tests to identify those who could make urolithin A. In those patients, drinking 1 cup of pure pomegranate juice per day for 4 weeks increased the presence of Akkermansia by 71%.
Cranberries contain proanthocyanins that increase the mucus layer in the gut where Akkermansia live. In a mouse study, scientists at Laval University and the University of Quebec at Montreal tested the effect of a cranberry extract, equivalent to humans drinking about 1 cup per day of cranberry juice. They fed healthy mice either a standard diet or a high-fat diet. The cranberry extract could increase the levels of Akkermansia by 30% after 9 weeks and also protected the animals from weight gain. Eating whole fresh or frozen cranberries is the best way to get their benefits because the commercial processing of cranberries for juice removes some of the bioactives that are in their skin and seeds.
The dark blue and purplish Concord grape was developed by a farmer named Ephraim Bow in Concord, Massachusetts as the perfect grape. This is a grape used to make classic grape jelly. Scientists from Rutgers universities and the University of California, San Francisco studied the effect of a Concord grape extract in mice that were fed a high-fat diet for 13 weeks. Mice that consumed extract each day equivalent to that found in a 1/3 cup of Concord grape juice had less weight gain and 5 times more Akkermansia than mice that did not consume the grape extracts. The mice fed Concord grapes also had 21% less weight gain on a high-fat diet compared to mice eating just a high-fat diet.
Fruit smoothies are a way of getting the benefit of fruit bioactives in a beverage. Stone fruits like peaches, apricots, and mangoes contain chlorogenic acid, a bioactive that also promotes the growth of Akkermansia. Cherries contain anthocyanins, and they promote Akkermansia growth in the colon. Scientists at Michigan State University fed freeze-dried cherries to lab mice that naturally developed colon tumors and found that eating cherries mixed in their chow reduced the number of tumors that developed by 74%.
Red wine. The benefit of red wine can now be extended to improving the gut biomicrobes and reducing inflammation in the body. Wine polyphenols are not well absorbed in the small intestine, meaning they continue through the guts to reach the colons where they feed the gut bacteria. The bacteria converts the polyphenols into bioactive metabolites that can be measured in the feces. Researchers at the Institute of Food Science Research at autonomous universities in Spain studied the effect of drinking a large glass of red wine, 250 milliliters, on red wine polyphenols in the stools. They found that 4 weeks of drinking the equivalent of a large glass of red wine every day led the bacteria to create metabolites from wine polyphenols, specifically propionic acid, benzoic acid, and valeric acid. These have beneficial anti-inflammatory properties. So whether or not you are a wine connoisseurs, when you drink a glass or two of red wine, the benefits are not only the enjoyment experienced by your, by your, by your palate, but also the bacterial metabolites of the wine at the other end of your digestive tract.
In a different study from Spain, researchers from the University of Oviedo, Oviedo and the Instituto de Productos Lácteos de Asturias Consejo Superior de Investigaciones Científicas found that drinking only two-thirds of a glass of red wine daily correlated with lower blood levels of a DNA-damaging toxin called malondialdehyde, a marker of aging, oxidative stress, and cellular damage in the body. The researchers attributed these to shifts in fecal microbiota they observed in these subjects.
Teas, in addition to their antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, and anti-angiogenic properties, they help promoting polyphenols in tea, help make a more favorable microbiome in our guts. As we've seen, green tea has star power when it comes to health, but it's not the only tea that promotes the health defenses.
A study by scientists from Ningbo University and Wenzhou Vocational College of Science and Technology in China tested green oolong and black teas for their effects on gut bacteria, and all three generated beneficial effects. The researchers found that the bioactives in all three types of teas passed through the small intestine, where they were not completely absorbed, and made it to the colon, where they influenced the microbiome. Researchers incubated the tea polyphenols from green oolong and black tea separately with fecal samples taken from young, healthy volunteers and observed the microbiome in the lab. The researchers found that teas could generate a 3% increase in the beneficial bacteria Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus, and a 4% decrease in the harmful Clostridia histolyticum. Oolong tea had the greatest effect. The researchers also examined the concentration of the anti-inflammatory SCFAs and SCFAs in the feces after 36 hours of exposure to the teas. Each tea substantially increased the three SCFAs: acetate, propionate, and butyrate. Surprisingly, black tea polyphenols had an overall better increase compared to green or oolong tea. Thus, in addition to its benefits relating to stem cells, black tea is especially good for the microbiome and is now emerging to be a healthful tea in its own right.
Tea saponins, a natural chemical that has soap-like properties, is one of the hundreds of bioactives found in tea. Scientists from the University of Wollongong in Australia and Suzhou Medical University in China have shown that tea saponins influence the microbiome. They fed mice a high-fat diet, which caused an impaired gut microbiome as well as obesity, brain inflammations, and poor memory in the mice. But when the mice were fed tea saponins in addition to the high-fat diet, their gut grew 40% less disulfurbyl, the bacteria that make toxins, hydrogen sulfide. The mice taking tea saponins also had less weight gain, less brain inflammation, and better memory compared to the mice eating high-fat diet alone.
Overall, drinking black oolong and green tea can increase good bacteria, decrease bad bacteria, and helps the microbiome produce beneficial health promoting short-chain fatty acids.
Avoid artificial sweeteners. So far, I have focused primarily on foods you can add to your diet that actively make you healthier, rather than on foods you should eliminate. But when it comes to the microbiome, I want to address one substance that may be best to avoid altogether: artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners that are currently approved for human consumption are saccharides, aspartame, sucralose, acesulfame, and neonates. They do the job that they were designed for extraordinarily well. They taste very, very sweet. Saccharin is 300 to 500 times as sweet as sugar. Aspartame, 180 times. And sucralose, 600 times. The advantage is that they satisfy the sweet too without delivering the calories of sugar. One of the ways they achieve this is having low absorptions in the gut. But this means they are delivered right to the gut bacteria. So the big question is, how do these sweeteners affect the microbiome?
Scientists at the Weizmann Institute of Science and Tel Aviv University in Israel have examined the impact of three of these sweeteners: saccharin, sucralose, aspartame, on the gut microbiome. They gave Mice, the artificial sweeteners are or natural sugars, glucose and sucrose, in their drinking water for 11 weeks and compare their gut bacteria to mice who consume only plain water. They found that saccharin had the largest effect on the microbiota, with a 1.2-fold decrease in beneficial Lactobacillus reuteri. Recall that L. reuteri L. reuteri is an important gut bacterium that affects immunity, resists development of breast and colon tumors, and influences the gut-brain axis to produce the social hormone oxytocin.
An attraction of artificial sweeteners is that most do not contain any carbohydrates, so they rank very low on the glycemic index. Surprisingly, however, when mice were given artificial sweeteners versus natural sugar or just plain drinking water and then tested for the ability to metabolize glucose, scientists found that mice drinking the artificial sweetener had more impaired glucose tolerance compared to those drinking sugar water or plain water. This would not make sense if you only consider the chemical makeups of the sweeteners, but the possibility of their interacting with the microbiome has been investigated. When broad-spectrum antibiotics like cephalosporins, metronidazole, and vancomycin were given to the mice in order to wipe out gut bacteria, all the mice had similar responses to the glucose tolerance test, revealing that the interaction of the artificial sweeteners with microbiomes was responsible for the observed glucose intolerance.
The Israeli group also studied 381 non-diabetic healthy people in their 40s and found that long-term consumption of non-caloric artificial sweeteners correlated with changes in their gut microbiome. They also had a bigger waist to hip ratio, a measure of obesity, higher fasting levels of blood glucose, and elevated levels of hemoglobin A1C, a blood marker that reflects long-term high blood sugar. Importantly, the researchers found that there seemed to be individual differences in the way people respond to artificial sweeteners, which may also be due to variation in their microbiome.
Another lab study by scientists from Case Western Reserve University, Ohio State University, the National Institutes of Health, and the University of Aberdeen in Scotland, showing that artificial sweetener could cause dysbiosis. They studied mice that are prone to a Crohn's disease-like inflammation of the gut and fed them sucralose maltodextrins for 6 weeks. When their gut bacteria were examined after the feeding, they found an overgrowth of E. coli.
These studies show how synthetic foods can impact the microbiome. In the case of artificial sweeteners, the potential consequences may influence how the gut bacteria control blood sugar metabolism and weight gain. This is important because, after all, the entire reason for using artificial sweeteners is to avoid these problems.
Bring it all together. Everything you put in your mouth that goes down the hatch. Fruits, vegetables, carbs, meats, junk food, soda, deficient sweeteners. Feed your human cells and then become food for your gut microbiome. The bacteria can metabolize food components that the human body can't digest, and this can create beneficial bioactives that protect your health. So the next time you shop at the market, look at the menu, plan a meal, grab a snack, or reach for a beverage. Ask yourself, what's good for my bacteria? Treat your bacteria well, and it returns the favor by defending your health.
The best way to eat for your bacteria is by putting more dietary fiber in your diet and less animal protein and fat. Plant-based foods are excellent sources of fiber and bioactives that feed and stimulate the healthy microbiome. Your gut bacteria then create metabolites that reduce inflammation, help regulate blood sugar and cholesterol, and improve immunity. The benefits will not only help you but also your progeny.
Eating to help your microbiome allows you to venture beyond fruits, vegetables, and nuts. Eating traditional fermented foods and cheeses, they contain useful bacteria and diversities to the bacteria in your gut. Beneficial gut bacteria also thrive on cocoa, and eating or drinking it decreases bad bacteria. Remember that certain fruits juices, pomegranates, cranberry, Concord grape, increase the gut's bacteria called Echinacea, which may help optimize your immune system to clean house of cancer. Healthy gut bacteria enjoy a glass of red wine, as well as tea in many forms, from black to oolong to green.
If you have taken antibiotics for any reason, they will definitely disrupt your microbiome. You will want to take steps with your diet to rebuild your gut's ecosystem. Artificial Artificial chemicals are often found in processed foods, and they may have negative consequences for our bacteria and therefore our health, possibly for generations to come. So remember, when it comes to eating a healthy diet, it's not just about you. Take care of your microbiome too.
Key foods affecting the microbiome: prebiotic, apricot, arugula, asparagus, bamboo shoots, black beans, black tea, bok choy, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, cherries, chickpeas, pomegranate juice, cranberry juice, dark chocolate, green tea, kale, kiwi, lentils, lion's mushrooms, mango, navy beans, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, oolong tea, peaches, peas, pomegranate juice, pumpernickel bread, red wine, rutabaga, shiitake mushrooms, tomatoes, turnips, walnuts, white butter, mushroom, whole grains.
Probiotic, camembert cheese, Gouda cheese, kimchi, Pao Chai, Parmigiano Reggiano, sauerkraut, sourdough bread, Yogurt. Chapter 9. Direct your genetic fate. Pollution, industrial toxins, ultraviolet radiation, and emotional stress all cause damage to our genetic code. When DNA is damaged, genes can malfunction. The consequences, such as aging, wrinkled skin, can be visible, or the effects can be insidious and invisible, causing cancer or damaging the brain, heart, lungs, and other organs. But foods and beverages can help you protect your own DNA against environmental assaults, as well as naturally occurring mutations.
When we read about diet and health, one term that is frequently encountered is antioxidants. These are touted as natural substances found in superfoods that can neutralize free radicals and provide a range of benefits from fighting cancer to anti-aging. This general wisdom is correct. Free radicals are highly reactive chemicals made from oxygen and nitrogen that are produced by the natural chemical reactions taking place in the body. Our body naturally attempts to reduce the level of free radicals using antioxidants made by our cells. If free radicals overwhelm natural antioxidants, they can cause a condition in cells called oxidative stress. When free radicals run rampant, they act like chemical shrapnels and can injure our DNA.
Many foods contain bioactive chemicals with antioxidant properties. Often, these foods and their antioxidants are hailed for their ability to neutralize free radicals, lower cellular stress, and protect DNA. Of course, you also see marketing of dietary supplements and functional foods with antioxidant properties almost everywhere you look. Selling antioxidant products has become a big business. It is projected to become a 278 billion market by 2024.
But let's look at the scientific and clinical evidence for foods that protect our DNA and how they actually work. First, there's a popular vitamins with antioxidant properties, vitamin C, one of the most commonly taken dietary supplements. Vitamin C is naturally found in many plant-based foods. The antioxidant effect of vitamin C has been proven in many lab studies, but as always, clinical evidence is king.
Researchers from the Hong Kong Institute of Vocational Education, Shatin, conducted a small but eye-opening clinical study to examine the DNA protecting effects of drinking orange juice. Oranges are known for their high vitamin C content. The researchers recruited 6 subjects and took a blood sample before having them each drink 1.75 cups of pasteurized orange juice, and then took a second blood sample 2 hours later. On a separate occasion, the researchers repeated the experiment with the same subjects, but this time gave them a placebo beverage made of water, sugar, and a vitamin C tablet instead of orange juice. After both tests, researchers used a special test called the COMET assay to analyze the ability of the blood to protect DNA before and after the subjects drank the beverage. In In the Comet assay, white blood cells or leukocytes are exposed to hydrogen peroxide, the same chemical used in hair lightening bleach. The peroxide creates massive free radical damage and shreds the DNA in the white blood cells. If drinking orange juice had a protective effect, there would be less damage in the DNA when cells are exposed to bleach.
The study found indeed that drinking orange juice improved the blood's ability to protect DNA. The DNA damage in people after drinking orange juice was reduced by 19% compared to when they drank the vitamins-enriched sugar water. This DNA protective effect was seen as quickly as 2 hours after having the juice. The improved DNA protective effect of the orange juice beyond the vitamin C content suggests that the benefits come from more than just vitamin C. Orange contains many bioactives, including naringenin and hesperidins, which are also antioxidants. This would support the prevalent wisdom that the combined antioxidants benefits gained from consuming whole foods can be more powerful than swallowing a supplement. And when it comes to oranges, you actually derive more benefits if you eat whole foods rather than just drink the juice. Oranges contain dietary fiber, which, as we saw in Chapter 8, is good for your microbiome. While fresh squeezed orange juice is a good option, be cautious about processed fruit juices. Many are simply sugar-sweetened beverages containing very little actual fruit.
Eating foods containing antioxidants is only one part of protecting your genetic code. Here's the problem. Neutralizing free radicals with antioxidants is like the military shooting missiles out of the sky. It can be successful if there are only a few missiles, but put enough missiles in the air and some will get through and cause destruction on the ground. The analogy applies to health as well. If there are only low levels of free radicals in the body, antioxidants can easily shoot them down. But if the burden is high, as you might find in someone regularly exposed to environmental toxins or in a smoker, or in a person with chronic inflammatory condition, antioxidants in food or supplements will offer useful but only partial protection.
The good news is that antioxidants aren't the only mechanism for preventing damage to our genes. Food can trigger health defenses that are naturally hardwired into our DNA. Some foods can speed up the repair of broken DNA after damage has taken place. How we eat can also switch certain genes on and off through so-called epigenetic changes. In addition to diet, exercise, sleep, and environmental exposures can also have good and bad epigenetic effects. But foods that have a positive epigenetics influence can unleash beneficial genes or turn off harmful ones to prevent and fight disease. Foods can also influence DNA by protecting telomeres. Recall that telomeres are protective caps that cover the end of DNA strand. Protecting telomeres slow down the revenges of aging that wear them down. You can activate these DNA safeguards by consuming familiar and tasty foods that are easy to include in your everyday diet. So what we eat can protect us against DNA damage and supports our DNA's natural ability to help us resist disease.
Before we discuss the many foods and beverages that can protect your DNA, let's take a look at the diseases that are associated with DNA damage.
Okay, Mr. K, we stop right here.
All right.
Yeah, share something you learned from this reading session.
Yeah, I think the first part and also the middle part is also talk about microbiome. Yeah, and I think it kind of like yeah uh, yeah make me feel like yeah it uh, how to say it actually yeah make me like believe more about the microbiome and then what food, especially those fiber things, and then prebiotic as well as probiotics, foods that is beneficial to microbiome, and then how the microbiome can make our body healthy. Yeah, I think this uh, is something that make me uh, increase my belief, something like
Yeah.
that.
Which part and what thing increase your belief?
Yeah, I think uh, it it keep mention the for example some foods, and then how it increase our like good bacteria and reduce bad bacteria.
Just
And
because just because of the longer paragraph mentioning more foods increase your belief?
mm, yeah, yeah, because
wouldn't be
right.
wouldn't it be a problem?
Yeah, yeah, you're also right. It is not something like a sure things.
No, I
Um,
mean, no, I mean, mm, maybe it is beneficial,
mm,
maybe no beneficial, but
mm,
something increase your belief shouldn't be just you read more and longer paragraph that increase your belief. Do you get what I mean? This is a
yep,
confirmation bias.
mm,
Mm.
yeah,
So, mm, something good or bad still help. Nothing related to how much time you spend in reading a particular information. This is
mm,
something I want to raise.
mm, yeah,
I didn't disagree that maybe dietary fiber and also kind of like eating a lot of vegetable and eating low proteins and eating
no fat.
the meanless foods and eat the whole foods and also eat the
Mm,
plant-based foods
yeah,
can improve your health in terms of microbiomes. I didn't disagree with that.
mm, yeah,
Mm. But
yeah,
something you need to know, just reading something longer paragraph doesn't mean that you should put your belief on that.
mm,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. You're right. This could be like you say the confirmation bias. Um, yeah, this is a trap. Yeah, yep, and yeah, microbiome is a big part of the reading session, and yeah, actually, I have a few experience which I try. Uh, I think that is the probiotic, as well as prebiotic. There are some supplements which is like they are in either in powder or in a capsule, and then it is like prebiotics, which is the food for the bacteria of our body, And yeah, I try a few times. Yeah, because in my house, my brother has buy that supplements, and the effects of that supplement, I wouldn't say is like every time effective. Sometimes when I feel like maybe my stomach is like uh, not very comfortable, or like if I eat too much and couldn't digest well, yeah, sometimes the that kind of supplements can help. But also sometimes when I try eating those prebiotic supplements, when I am uh, when I don't have uncomfortable and I try to eat it, and actually I sometimes I feel like uh, not so good. I feel like maybe uh, it impact or it affects the I don't know the terms, maybe like the bacteria ecosystem in my body, and it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't make me feel good. Yeah, it seems like it make it worse. Yeah, I don't. Maybe I feel a little bit stomachache after that.
Mm.
So I think, yeah, bacteria. Uh, yeah, I think it is something very complicated, and in everybody's uh, the yeah, it has a lot of differences in everybody. Yep. Yeah, and I believe it has some ecosystem insight. And once you change it, maybe you feel uncomfortable. But also you told me before that our microbiome can change uh, very fast, right? Like a few
Mm.
hours, it can change a lot.
Yeah, in 24 hours if
Mm,
you fast. Mm.
yeah. Yeah, and beside this microbiome, there is a part talk about artificial sweeteners. Yeah, for this one, the first things come in my mind is when I was young, like 15 or 12, my father used to buy a type of sugar, and yeah, on the package of the sugar, it mentions sugar free. And at that time, I was very curious about that because how can a sweet uh, written sugar free and then give me the taste of sweet? Yeah, and yeah, I think yeah, after only after a few years, like after I grew up, like 18 or 20, yeah, I started to know that that is the artificial sweetness. Yeah, and today we also came across artificial sweetness, and it is mentioned that it is not a good thing, and also the suggestion is to avoid it. Yeah, and yeah, I also did some uh, quick research of artificial sweeteners from Google, and then the source is Wikipedia, and saw that yeah, the existence of artificial sweeteners, they kind of like approve it to become one of the ingredient can be used in our food. Yeah, they are kind of like pro and cons. Yeah, some benefit, not benefit, some reason of approving this, I think, uh, is mainly the benefits compared to the real sugar. Uh, uh, the the disadvantage of the real sugar, for example, increase the glucose levels, obesity. Yeah, this is, I think, the main disadvantage uh, for why the artificial sugar can be approved. Yep, and then some of the advantage like the decay teeth, yeah, which also I see I saw in Wikipedia. Compared to the real sugar, artificial sweetener actually doesn't uh, it it won't cause decay teeth because the process is different when we consume the real sugar and then uh, the bacteria that kind of like uh, translate the sugar into kind of like when there are met met metabolism, the process of translating the sugar into uh, uh, translating the sugar, the bacteria also the bacteria will damage our teeth. Yeah, this is for real sugar, but for the artificial sweeteners, this is another case, and it will not have the kind of bacteria that will decay our teeth. Yeah, this is also one of the side advantage compared to the real sugar.
Mm.
Mm. Yep.
Yeah. Since you talk about the to decay, it reminds me something I read from a book, and in the book it mentions one of dentists, and this dentist is also a doctor, and could be like the maybe like the researchers, and these Americans, and his name is called Weston Price, Weston Price, Price. So Weston Price, he's a dentist, and he's Americans, but he go to many countries like the Africa and to study. And he's not only study about something related to our gum health. He also try to find is there any linking, and to our overall health. And then he actually found something, which is when he go to some poor villages, those poor villages they have no access to the processed food, to the sugar, to let's say like the very sweet beverages, soft drinks like Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And they didn't actually have a good practice of brushing teeth because they are in the poor villages.
Yeah.
And but their gum health is actually better than the people in the modern countries. And so the conclusion he actually found that he finds the link together is, and then he kind of like concluded some of the principle of the guideline of the diet. And you also can try to find, for example, the Western's price diet. Yeah, and here I simply click into a link. So first is eat only unprocessed, non-industrial foods. So that means avoid all the processed foods. And including the artificial preservatives, which is including the artificial sweeteners. And also all kind of sugar, the refined sugar, or the fructose. And the second is, it mentioned here all traditional diet center on whole animal foods. This is based on his research. The traditional diets is actually kind of like based on the whole animal foods. So mainly is on the animal foods, and like vegetable is just few of them. This is when he go to do the research, and this is something, the result he found. Yeah. And also one thing to make sure is he born in 1870 and
Wow.
he died in 1948. So it's very, very early. It's kind of like before World War One, something like that. No, I think is it before World War One? No, I think no.
1948 is I think it's after World War II, right?
Maybe.
Or
Yeah.
during the World War II.
Yeah, but his life, he experienced World War One and World War Two. It is definitely. And the third guidance or principle is and the animal foods is kind of like they eat the whole animal, nose to tail, like the muscle, organs, bones. You can use the bones to cook the soup, and the bones can be broken down, and fat, and also the organ meats and fats. And then the fourth one is I read the sentence: the diets of healthy, non-industrialized people contains at least 400% more mineral and water-soluble vitamins and 100% more fat-soluble activated vitamin A, D, and K2. So that means the people who eat the quote-unquote healthy and non-industrialized foods in their body, they have 400% more mineral and vitamins, and 100% more fat-soluble vitamin, which is the vitamin K, vitamin D, vitamin K2. This is important. And maybe vitamin B, but I didn't mention here. And then the big one is kind of like repeat same thing, but it is some people eat the cooked food, some people eat the food at raw. And then the sixth one is traditional foods, species foods high in enzymes and beneficial bacteria from lactose fermented dietary meats, fruits, and vegetables. So I think this is related to microbiome. Yeah, high in enzymes and also fermented foods, meat, fruits, and vegetables. And and also the seven is they eat the seeds, they eat the grains, they eat the nuts, and they soak they soak the seeds, they soak the grains, they soak, and then they sprout, they ferment it. So it kind of like remove some plant toxins and anti-nutrients and phytic, oxalate, vital hormones, and glutens. So without being processed out of foods, these anti-nutrients can cause mineral depletions, hormone imbalances, and even birth defects. A defect. They also remind me something about the birth defect. But it may contain bias because one of the video I watched, the family, the husband and the wife, they eat carnivore diet for a very long time, and then the wife say that before they eat carnivore diet, she can't really give birth a baby. But after he switched to carnivore diet, the family and also she like pregnant. So, but it may contain bias because we don't know. It's just one case.
Yeah,
and also come back to the Western price diet, and then the act principle is fat accounted for 80 to 30% of calories. Sorry, fat accounted for 80 to 30% of calories coming mostly from animal sources. So here, a maximum of only 4% of calories came in the form of polyunsaturated fats, mostly from grains and legumes. So if you follow the Western price diet, most of the fat you get from should be from the animal sources and not
Plant-based.
the plants, the plants oil, vegetable oil, polyunsaturated fats.
Mm.
And then the night principle is very, very difficult, which is equal amounts of omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. This is so difficult for modern people. And 10, salt was a feature in all traditional diets. And this is more to tell whether salt is good for our body, whether reducing salt is good for our health. Is a high debate area. And I'm not going to share some of my thoughts about salt right now. And the 11th principle is animal bones are used in all traditional diets, most often in nutrient-rich bone broth. So just like what I say, they use animal bones to cook the soup. And 12, traditional culture makes special efforts to ensure the health of future generations by supplying nutrients-rich animal foods for parents trying to conceive, pregnant women, and developing children. They also practice spacing the birth of children and teaching dietary ideals to their young. So I think this is nothing related. This is just a culture, and then they pass the knowledge to the next generation. So you can try to see. And also if they consume vegetable oil, they only use like the extra virgin olive oil and the coconut oil, which is low in the PUFAs, polyunsaturated fats, higher saturated fat. And it's also high debate area, which is some people say that saturated fat is not good for health. And one thing maybe we should understand that even though like the people who eat carnivore diet and ketogenic diet, it doesn't mean that their microbiome is suck. Right? For example, ketogenic, they also eat vegetable. But the differences is whether eating the saturated fats damage your microbiomes. And you say dietary fiber is good for microbiome, but it's just one of them. You can eat the fermented foods, you can eat some other foods. They also can benefit the microbiome. And animal itself also contain microbiome. Animal-based food also contain microbiome. So in some society, they prefer to eat the raw meat. You may think, oh, eat raw meat, it must be dangerous. But they eat some good bacteria, including they eat some good bacteria altogether, good bacteria and bad bacteria, and their body have the immune system to kill the bad bacteria. But some of the meats you shouldn't eat raw. And for me, I don't eat meat raw. I eat cooked meat. And it's not a must to do. So this is a very, very different diet. I mean the Western price diet compared to the conventional diet, conventional healthy diet we learned. And one thing I want to mention is about the 2 decades. So really, if you consume less carbs, your gum health is kind of like improve. I also experienced this. And also I think I mentioned it before, the gums is kind of related. The gum health is related to your gut health. So you know the microbiome stay in your gut. So what's the relationship between them? Yeah. If your gum health improve, does it mean that your gut health also improve? If your gut health improve, does it mean that the microbiome is kind of like live at a higher quality? Not sure. High debate area.
Yeah.
Yeah. But something we know is if your gut health is bad, your gum health will also bad. But we don't know whether it has a reverse relationship, whether gum health can also influence back to the gut health.
Yeah.
And also we're not sure the cost and effect. Whether you avoid the carbs, it's because avoid the carb directly affect your gum health, improve the gum health, or improve your gut health, and then indirectly benefit your gum health. We're not sure. Yeah. And yeah, so this is about the 2 decades. And we can kind of like use this kind of mindset to think, to do a research. If let's say a healthy diet, your gum health is bad, it suck. What does it mean? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Just focus on sugar. Yeah, maybe like too narrow, right? If we talk about the tooth decay, yeah.
I mean,
Just now you.
I mean, you can try. No, sugar. Do you mean the carbs, including the carbs, or just sugar?
Just sugar.
Yeah. So I agree. Maybe it's too narrow. Maybe you need to look at the whole component, which is the carbs, because carbs is also sugar. When it go into your body, and yeah, and I kind of like from a principle, from a guidance for myself. Of course, this is still not tested by time. I still need to trial and error and read more and study more and form my own philosophy about food. The first thing is try to avoid the unprocessed foods, all kind of unprocessed food, including the vegetable, including the meat, all kind of unprocessed food. And if you talk about the corns, like some kind of vegetable is GMO, genetic modified foods. To me, it's also processed foods. It's kind of like you try to avoid the foods that newly invented, newly created within a few hundred years. Kind of like this. So this is an idea. This is not something like you really need to find out whether the food is come before already existed before the maybe 500 years. You don't need to do that, but kind of like have a philosophy, have a mindset. So avoid the modern food, avoid the foods that people created purposely, especially for vegetable, because they change the gene of the vegetable very significantly. And for animal, because they have their own digestive system, and they have the meat that they still like act like the human. So you change the gene is not because you want them to grow in a different shape. Yeah, and if the animal grow in a different shape, you also try to avoid to eat those livestock. Yeah, for example, maybe the pig live in the duck line. Yeah, those kind of meats, if you know this is the kind of like the pig live in the duck line, and avoid it. Yeah. So maybe the cow, I don't know, maybe the eyes is bigger because of the gene modified. Avoid those. And human modified the animal is modified the gene specifically about the kind of like the whether they will attack people or not. Yeah, to keep them safe. To allow the cow can stay calm when they go into the slaughter machines. Yeah. So it's kind of like not some other wild animal. You cannot let the lions go into the slaughter machines. Yeah, they'll fight with you, but cow won't. Yeah, sheep won't. So this is because of the gene modified. So avoid all the unprocessed foods. And rice to me is also so avoid all the processed food. To me, maybe rice is also a processed food. Yeah. In a gray area, because few hundred years ago you don't have the rice. They modify the gene until it become edible. Yeah, few hundred years ago or few thousand years ago, it's just a wheat. And yeah, but so far no evidence show that eating rice is bad for health. But to me, I will reduce the consumption if following this kind of guidance. Yeah, avoid all the unprocessed food. And also the next thing is,
I think you say opposite.
Yeah. Avoid all the processed food. So this is the first principle. And then the second is eat less or eat no carbs. Yeah, this is second. So maybe you can still eat rice, but very little amount. But you should like avoid all the starches like potato, sweet potato, all this, and also all kind of refined sugar and all the artificial sweetener. Sugar, I think so far, based on my research, sugar is really a toxin and bad for your health. And why diabetes in Chinese called 糖尿病? It's not a 肥尿病, something like that. Yeah, it must have some reason. And to me, yeah, and obesity and diabetes, all these health diseases actually more or less related to carbs, more than related to the fat. Yeah, so far what I see is like this. And yeah, so this is second, try to avoid the carbs.
Yeah.
And many people did the low carb diet. They don't do ketogenic, they don't do carnivore, they do the low carb diet, but they also can see some effectiveness. They also kind of like improve their health. And people who eat the whole plant foods, if they avoid some of the sugar and some of other starches, and yeah, their health also improve. So when people say that they eat plant-based food, you still need to ask what they eat. It's not like animal or plant. It's what in your diet, what inside. Yeah. So plant-based food doesn't mean bad if they don't eat carbs, if they don't eat processed foods. Yeah, it is better than normal diet. Yeah. So yeah, this is so far I found 2 principles. Maybe you will add on in future. So, but this is just my opinion. Yeah. Okay. So, do you have anything on that in?
One more thing, which is I think vitamin to you is also processed food, right? Processed.
Do you mean the supplements?
Yeah, supplements.
Okay. vitamin is not processed food because this is not food. This is vitamin. This is the nutrition.
Yeah, but it is kind of like the modern way to produce it, right? To extract from from the things.
If you can get enough vitamin from foods, from the real foods, go for the whole foods. And I think I have highlighted in this reading session, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
The orange juice one.
Yeah. So eating whole food is better than eating supplements in terms of effectiveness. So if you can get enough vitamin and mineral from the real foods, you don't need to eat the supplements. And if you cannot get enough vitamin and mineral from the real foods, from your daily foods, you need to rethink whether your diet is good enough or not. Yeah. So another way to think, vitamin deficiency and mineral deficiency is really critical to human life, and it can cause some disease. It can cause some issue within a short time. Really within a short time. If you don't eat vitamins, if you didn't consume vitamin C and don't eat a fresh meat, and you will get a scurvy in a very, very short period, maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and you will die. People cannot cross another country in maybe a few hundred years ago through the ship is just because of this. You can read the history.
Like of vitamin C, right?
Yeah, but if you can access a fresh meat, they don't know why. Fresh meats have very, very little vitamin C, but they can survive. Even though they eat very, very little or no plant-based food. The people who live in Ice Age, can they plant? No. The sapiens live in the Ice Age. Can they plant? Can they access the plant foods? No. They eat animal. But why don't they get the scurvy? Think about it.
Yeah.
So, and also vitamin mineral deficiency is very, very critical to us. And a few 100,000 years ago to 1 million years ago, humans cannot access a plant-based food, cannot eat the plants. How they survive? How they get enough vitamin and mineral? Yeah. So one assumption is vitamin and mineral deficiency can really kill you within a short time. You need to find out whether this assumption hold true or not. Or make you less healthy. But make you less healthy and make you weak is also critical in 1 million years ago, because that means they become weaker and weaker. They cannot kill the animal. They cannot obtain the food. They will die. So it's also critical. And so you need to test whether this assumption is hold true or not. And if hold true, the second thing is why human live until today. We still have a sapien past a generation. Why you can live? Why you can born? Yeah. So is it something just beyond the plant? Maybe meat contain something enough. And of course, we know about something longevity versus a survival, and also something maybe make you stronger, that make you live shorter. This also could be a reason. So yeah. So but this is getting more complicated. If you stick with the simple logic, this is something like you prove the unproved, which is animal-based food is bad for health. This is something you can prove. You can prove this statement is unproved, right? Based on this logic, first principle thinking. Okay, so anything want to add in?
Yeah, I think no.
Okay, so talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Goodbye.